Hi, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers of this meeting, especially the core group of governments, Costa Rica, Maldives, Morocco, Slovenia, and Switzerland. I want to recognize all the work that they've done on this issue over the years, and in particular thank them on a personal note for all the support they gave me during my time as the Special Rapporteur. I really could not have done it without that support. Let me take this opportunity also to thank the other organizers of this meeting, including OHCHR, the UN Environment Program, the Universal Rights Group, the Geneva Academy, and the Commonwealth Small States Office. Like the core group, they have all played critical roles in the development of our understanding of human rights and the environment. I wish I could be there with you in person. As a matter of fact, today, February 6th, is my birthday, and if you're thinking about what present you are going to get me, in fact, it would be nice to have an effective strategy to have UN adoption and recognition of the human right to a healthy environment. You don't even have to wrap that up. It could just be delivered later this year. I'll start by recalling how far we've come over the last 8 years. In 2012, when the Council first created the mandate on human rights and the environment, it did so against a backdrop of failed or maybe just partially successful efforts to link human rights and the environment at the United Nations. As a result, the initial mandate was rather cautious. Following the model of the mandate on the human right to water and sanitation, which had been created in 2008, the Council appointed me as an independent expert, not as a special rapporteur, and asked me only to study the relationship between human rights and the environment and to identify best practices. But it turned out that the political climate at the Council around human rights and the environment had changed for the better. Human rights bodies had created an extensive and growing jurisprudence on the application of human rights norms to environmental issues. States were therefore becoming more familiar with rights-based approaches to environmental protection, and the Council greeted my reports on this topic not with resistance and denial, but rather with support and acceptance. In 2015, the Council renewed my mandate for another 3 years by consensus, changed my title to Special Rapporteur, and urged me to promote the realization of human rights obligations relating to the enjoyment of a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. In 2017, the core group of governments convinced the Council to adopt a very detailed, lengthy resolution calling on states to respect, protect, and fulfill a broad range of rights in relation to environmental protection. This really marked a sea change in the acceptance of states of obligations under human rights law relating to the environment. And in 2018, my final report to the Council presented framework principles on human rights that set out procedural and substantive obligations relating to the environment. And again, the Council accepted these principles, or at least noted them with appreciation. The Council renewed the mandate for another 3 years, requested the new mandate holder to report to the General Assembly for the first time, and appointed David Boyd to be the next Special Rapporteur. And it's noteworthy that they did so knowing that David is one of the leading, if not the very leading, expert in the world on the right to a healthy environment. Over this same period, the UN Environment Program and other UN agencies were also moving human rights from the periphery to the center of their work. This is really remarkable progress in a very short period of time. And I don't want to suggest that it was all easy or somehow preordained. In particular, the core group of governments deserves a huge amount of credit for shepherding progressively stronger resolutions through the Human Rights Council. I think it's now safe to tell you that this process was always intended to result where we are now. That is, UN recognition of the human right to a healthy environment was always understood to be the goal towards which we were working. By carefully explaining what human rights law already says about the environment, I wanted to make sure that the right would be seen not as some strange new innovation in human rights law, but rather as an integral part of it. So how to proceed now? How should we clear this final hurdle of UN recognition of the human right to a healthy environment? It's important to recognize that we do not need to try to propose or negotiate a brand new international human rights treaty. Apart from the political difficulties in doing so, illustrated by the fate of the Global Pact, A treaty simply isn't necessary to recognize this right for two reasons. First, it isn't necessary because the right isn't required to make changes to international human rights law. Don't misunderstand me. Formal recognition of the right is important and will be very useful. But it isn't necessary in order to provide a new basis for the creation of an environmental human rights law. The construction of that law has been underway for many years, and it will continue. The right to a healthy environment, then, is more of a capstone than a cornerstone. It's something that crystallizes, integrates, and organizes this area of the law rather than something necessary to provide a foundation for it. The second reason why a treaty isn't necessary is because the General Assembly itself has made clear that a treaty is not necessary in order to recognize a new human right. The rights to water and sanitation continue to be models for the right to a healthy environment in this respect. In 2010, as you know, the General Assembly recognized those rights in the form of a resolution. 10 years later, the General Assembly can and should recognize the right to a healthy environment in the same way. I would strongly suggest keeping this resolution as simple as possible, like the 2010 resolution on water and sanitation was as simple as possible. If the General Assembly is presented the simple question, I believe that it will overwhelmingly vote for recognition of the human right to a healthy environment. There's no reason to make things complicated in ways that might confuse the issue and somehow draw down that support. The resolution should be simple because the key message is simple. This right is not really new. It has been recognized for many years in national constitutions, regional human rights agreements, by human rights treaty bodies, and most important, in the understanding of the people of the world. They already know, and the General Assembly should recognize, the obvious, that everyone, everywhere, has the right to enjoy an environment to support healthy lives, livelihoods, and well-being. I hope that on my next birthday in 2021, we'll be celebrating the UN adoption of the human right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Thank you all again very much, and good luck in your work today.